Hello, everyone. My name is Sahota. I'm the VP of Possibilities with the HeroX team. We're excited to have two amazing thought leaders in the crowdsourcing space with us. Today, we're going to be discussing how to incorporate innovation within your organization. Let's get started with some introductions. I can certainly get us kicked off. My name is, as I mentioned, Sahota. My role with the team at HeroX is the VP of Possibilities, which is just a really fun way of saying that I get the pleasure of connecting with organizations all over the globe to speak to them about their innovation strategies and how to implement crowd as a key component of that strategy. Christian, how about you? Give us a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Kal. My name is Christian Cotichini. I'm the co-founder and CEO of HeroX and been a long-time entrepreneur and really excited to talk about crowdsourcing and open innovation and all the great work that we're doing.
All right, Maher, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, hi, Kal. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. My name is Maher. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Ideanco, and I'm located on actual plane, to be honest with you. So I travel all over the world for the company and for the team and for our customers.
Very nice. Absolute pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, so guys, we're gonna get into a discussion. So we'll get kicked off with one of my favorite questions. And Maher, this one's gonna be to you. So thanks for sharing a little bit about your background already, but I'd love to get into, before we dive into specific questions, tell our audience a little bit about how you became a subject matter expert in this space. I mean, what was the journey that brought you to where you are today?
So, back we started the company in Canada, in Calgary, actually, in 1999. And before we started the company, to be honest, it was based on desperation. We wanted to do something different. And at that time, we knew that we were passionate about doing something different. We didn't know where it is. And we started providing services related to strategy for our customers. The only hurdle we were facing at that time is the performance gap. So we had an opportunity gap that we managed to close efficiently and effectively, meaning getting customers on board. The only problem we had was with the performance gap, meaning we couldn't have the right resources. The reason behind it, because we didn't have money to hire the right resources. So what happened is that back in 1999, we utilized the power of internet, but also we utilized the power of white pages by calling people randomly to see whether they'd be interested to work on particular projects related to whether it's oil and gas or finance in the city, particularly in the city of Calgary. And based on some of the stuff that we received, we were quite amazed of the talented people that wanted to contribute to the projects that we had in hand. So this is when we started to collect the information from people in 1999. And then after that, we decided to be honest, we didn't have a business model by then. So we were just working randomly and seeing where we're gonna go afterwards. And then back in 2000, during the dot-com crash, this is when we started to realize that we have a really cool business model, and we didn't know what the name is for the actual business model, except that in 2001, this is when crowdsourcing, 2001, 2002, the terminology of crowdsourcing started to appear. And I was in discussion with a professor from Harvard University at that time, and we told him about our business model, and then he said, "Oh my God, you guys are in the crowdsourcing business model." So I started to do more research on crowdsourcing, and this is when I realized that we are in a very cool business model. So we managed to grow the crowd from 1999 to today's date. So we have 48,000 people with us. And this is not only organic growth. We went into partnership with other entities as well to increase the talented crowd to be part of our ecosystem. And what happened is that we also increased our services from a strategy perspective. And we started focusing on, at that time, oil and gas, finance, but we managed to expand our horizon to touch base on aerospace, that's basically exploration, aviation, climate change. And then in 2003, we decided to expand and grow. We thought that this is the right opportunity for us to tap into different markets where we believed at that time there was a need for us. don't get me wrong, it was a very challenging
Mm-hmm.
journey between 1999 and 2003. And the reason behind it, because we were working with very smart traditional mindsets that they care about how many people you have as full-timers rather than how many people you have being part of the crowd working with you. So it was quite challenging for us to change their mindset. But we managed to grow as we move forward. In 2003, we went into opening an office in Los Angeles and in Dubai. And to be honest with you, we abandoned the office in Los Angeles and we focused a lot on Dubai and Calgary. The reason behind it, because 2003 in Dubai was a happening market, still is, and it was beautiful for us. So we managed to tap into the verticals in Dubai and the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East, and we managed to grow accordingly. Today's date, we have offices in Calgary, New York, San Francisco, Paris, London, Beirut, and Dubai. And then we have 40 plus representative offices across different cities, all across the globe. We have 41 full-timers, and those are very well-rounded, 360-degree well-rounded people, meaning they do business development, they manage accounts, they retain customers, they acquire the customers, and also they manage the accounts with the crowd. So they recruit, they bring the talented crowd into our business model. So really, to be honest with you, the journey, it's been a great journey full of challenges. We love challenges. In fact, every single challenge we come across, we saw it as an opportunity and we took it to the next level. But yeah, I mean, we celebrated 20 years of the making this year.
Congratulations. That's pretty powerful. And thanks for sharing that. It's a powerful way to learn as to kind of what brought you to where you are today, and also a really great segue into our discussion. But I have to say, the best part of your share is you were crowdsourcing without knowing you were crowdsourcing. So I think that, to me, it really speaks to kind of leaning into what's working without even knowing what it's called. So I absolutely love that part of your share. So Christian, so this one's for you. As much as crowdsourcing has grown over the last number of years, and Maher has described his journey there, I would imagine that it's not easy leaning into a space that's still not quite considered traditional business methodology. So since you've been a successful entrepreneur for over 20 years, tell us what makes this particular venture both challenging and exciting. And in other words, why are you so passionate about it?
Well, so before I started HeroX, I'd done 3 other startups, and the last one we sold to Dell when they were going private. And so I had a chance to take some time off and, travel the earth and meet people and think about, the world and read and get educated. And that kind of led me to, realizing that, the internet has just begun to impact how we work together and how the world works. And it's slowly, permeating all the nooks and crannies of our society and our marketplaces. The internet brings a global network effect to, brings network effects to things that traditionally didn't have them. And network effects tend to accelerate the profusion of change and impact. So that leads to, the rate of market change being, accelerating, right? And, organizations are struggling to keep up with that. And, we live in this weird world where, we have all these amazing innovations and these positive changes, and yet we have all these problems. And in fact, the number of problems have in fact grown in many ways. So, having a chance to really look at the problem that technology is kind of contributing to, both the problem and the solution. I realized that we need to figure out how to use the internet to collaborate more powerfully than we're currently doing. The internet has had a big impact on decentralized elements of society like, e-commerce and our marketplace and like online social activities, dating, food delivery, so it's had these like impacts in these specific areas, but the way that we work together and collaborate is still kind of stuck in this organizational construct of, you need a security card to get in the building, you need to be hired, you need to be, brought in as a freelancer in order to even have a chance to participate. And so the idea that we do all our problem solving behind locked doors and all the problems kind of run wild on the internet is really, if you think about it, a really stupid model. So what's really needed is organizations need to open up their collaboration and innovation and use the internet to help solve the problems that the internet is helping those problems kind of perfuse even faster. So that was kind of the initial kind of thought about that. And then with HeroX, the goal, really was to help build a general purpose platform for the benefit of the entire ecosystem, for the benefit of organizations like Ideanco, and really create almost like this missing social network that provides the place where we can do all this collaboration.
And listen, to the audience, I have the pleasure of working with Christian every single day, and I can certainly attest to his passion in the space. I don't think there's a moment that he's not online. So that's that's a great
good thing, but
that's true. So that's a great answer. So thanks for that, Christian. Maher, you have an absolute wealth of experience, and you've built out a step-by-step methodology to apply innovation within organizations. In over 2 decades of experience, where have you seen the greatest challenges? And let me be a little bit more specific. Where do you see organizations simply getting stuck?
Well, it's a great question, Kal. To be honest with you, we've seen a great amount of challenges, but I'm going to put priority on the most important ones. So one thing we noticed when we got to be engaged with companies to close their gap. Keep in mind that there are only 2 gaps in the world. Within the corporate system or business or startups or whoever they are, if they are individuals or running their own business or big corporations. And those gaps are performance gaps and opportunity gaps. And then the CEO or the executive director of the companies, they asked us to come and close these gaps or to do some sort of reinvention process or reinvent their portfolio of products. And what we noticed is that the organization are very much too busy exploiting the core business and very much missing on the exploration side. So this is a challenge that we notice, which is called not having the ambidextrous organization. What I mean by ambidextrous is basically to have the right hand and the left hand working simultaneously together at the same time. Meaning, as a human being, if you get to manage to have the right brain and the left brain working well together simultaneously at the same time, this is a sign of, or it's a path going towards success. So, and the right hand and the left hand is basically the exploration and the exploitation. So while you're exploiting the core business of the company, in parallel to that, you're exploring different business model, different opportunities to be brought to the core business. So that should sustain the continuous process of the organization moving forward. So this is one of the challenges, but the other one is not being able or not being capable, those organizations of getting, getting involved in collaboration and aggregation of data and getting the correct resources to exploit the core business of the customer, hence our presence. So some people, they identify us as a manpower agency, although we're not. We're a strategy consultancy firm. We just happen that we're in the crowd business model, and we outsource the capabilities of the crowd. We bring different ideas from different parts of the world. Hence, innovation kicks in because different blood, different ideas. So that was one of the struggle that we managed to see with the customers and not being able to getting this data aggregate it and make use of it. The other two items, as far as I remember, is that this is something that I love the most, is that most of the organizations in the world, once they become big, they start to live a successful syndrome. So I call this successful syndrome. And what I mean by that is that I'm so good at what I do, why do I need to change? So this is the starting point of a failure, to be honest with you, for me personally. And I've learned this from my family. I didn't learn it, from in the field. I learned it from my family, because once you start to develop a legacy of the history of success, so you start to living a legacy. And once you start living a legacy, this is a starting point of failure, meaning a human being, to have a successful continuity for the future, reinvention is required, and it starts within you first before you reinvent the company. So this is a successful syndrome that really affected a lot of companies out there. And that's why you see, if you think about it, the average age of people living in the US or North America, as far as I remember, based on my research, is 79 to 80 years old. And the average age of a company in North America that makes it to 40 years is about 7.1% of the age of the companies in North America. So imagine, so the reason behind it, because of successful syndrome, of course you have other factors, but successful syndrome plays a key role. So innovation leaders are supposed to be, as you already know, to be fearless, to be resilient. Whereas on the other hand, you see executives at big corporation, often they're the opposite of that. They're the complete opposite of that. And I don't blame them, because that's their job. Their job is to be, being part of full-time employment, but at the same time to exploit the core business. And that level of fearless and resilience comes with exploration being hand in hand with exploitation. So I truly believe that real innovation happens when executives really endorse and hug the power to protect and support the innovation leader publicly out there. And those are the hurdles that we came across.
Yeah, that's a really great share. And, in your share, what also shows up for me a little bit is, I think there needs to be a level of humility with the leaders as well, right? So it's not that you know everything, right? It's you don't know what you don't know, and that I have it comes from a level of humility that you're willing to be open to the idea that there's something out there that you have not yet considered. And when you keep everything behind closed doors and you think you have everything figured out, just like you said, that's more often than not when you realize you actually have nothing figured out. So that's a really great share. So Christian, let's build on that a little bit. So when you're having these discussions with organizations, where do you see the greatest level of resistance or challenges in organizations being able to lean into incorporating crowd as a key component of that innovation strategy that Maher has just so eloquently explained? Where do you see the resistance coming from?
Well, the way you're asking it, it sounds like there's like an organized resistance specifically to this. I would say that, just human beings in general and organizations, resist change, just like the Newton's laws of motion, right? That, object in motion, tends to stay in motion. And so there's an inertia that we have where we do what we've done. And, every individual feels that new things are initially, seen as, something not to trust and something that they're unsure of. But at an organizational level, it's even harder. So, this is why, Blockbuster went bankrupt, watching, Netflix take video streaming online, despite the fact that that was probably the most predictable, event in business, because the broadband speeds were slowly ticking up in a predictable way to when video streaming was possible, and they had years and years of notice, but they sat around and watched, Netflix take their market, and they went bankrupt. Why? Because they couldn't change, they couldn't adapt, despite having billions of dollars spent on it. I mean, there's many, many examples like that. So it's a fundamental property of organizations that, they struggle with change. Anybody who's worked in change management knows how hard it is. And, going outside of the the proven, the safe model of, keeping all your problems and your projects internal and putting them out and open. It's a scary thing, but it's also a necessary strategy, we think, for organizations to be able to keep up with the rate of change in the market. You need to use the market to help you keep up with the market. That's a simple way of thinking about it. And crowdsourcing is a key element to that. It's just really putting work outside your organization and leveraging people who don't work for you as a virtual workforce, if you will, a virtual brain trust. And we're working with a lot of organizations that are doing that. But what I've noticed over the last several years is that the awareness and the interest level in open innovation and crowdsourcing has been growing. And there's lots of signs of that. The mainstream acceptance being just around the corner for crowdsourcing. So we really believe that crowdsourcing is going to be as common as social media marketing is for organizations once it hits that tipping point.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. So this question, and actually that's a really good segue too. So this question is actually to the both of you. So based on the last couple of questions that I posed, we're speaking to a little bit about what's not working. So now let's talk a little bit about the strategies that you've applied to actually make things work. So the question is, offer, and if you have a specific example, that would be great. And you certainly don't have to name any organizations, but where you supported in lifting barriers to getting an open innovation strategy successfully implemented. So Maher, why don't we start with you first?
Yeah, I mean, Kal, look, to answer this question first, I need to define innovation for the crowd, for the audience, for our audience. And my definition of innovation is basically the implementation of creative, utilitarian, original ideas within organization. So it's simple as that. And the implementation part of it is so important. So you can come up with creative, utilitarian ideas and original ideas, but if you can't implement them, they sit on paper, they do nothing. So this is one thing. And to give you an example, we have something internal, external. So I'm going to start with the internal. 6 years ago, we came across to learn that there's a need for us to develop an actual innovation lab internally within our company. And then based on that, we decided to go into the exercise of strategy. And strategy, basically, you need to ask the question, what business are we in? What's the core business? Can you define the core business of the company within 2 or 3 words? And we started to do this brainstorming session with our team and with the crowd. And to be honest with you, I'm so happy to learn from the crowd that they identified some of the cool elements for our core business, including our talented people. And what business are we in? So we defined that. And based on that, we start to work on developing the innovation strategy within the lab. Now, we didn't announce anything publicly until we got few projects in hand and we exploited them with major success, to be honest with you. And this is when we realized that this is a business model that we really want to be in. So this is on the internal. On the external, and because we're into the crowdsourcing business model, because I want to give you an example relevant to the call. I'm not going to get into the advisory arm of the company. I prefer to stick with the lab, with the innovation lab. So what happens is that we started working with startups. And our model basically is to work with corporations and innovators and entrepreneurs and startups. So with corporations, or whether they are public or private sector, we go there to reinvent them. So they need a reinvention methodology, or what I call a transformational strategy. And on the other hand, the startups, we work with them to retain a competitive advantage, meaning they need to understand what a competitive advantage is. Because if you don't have it, you just don't have it. You just don't have, even if you have a product and you don't have a competitive advantage, that means you're going to lose in the market out there. So what we've done is that we developed a strategy for the challenges, which is similar to HeroX. And as Christian mentioned, so the crowdsourcing business model of HeroX is that we provided the strategy for the entrepreneurs, for the innovators, let's call them innovators, because this is part of the challenges, to go ahead and innovate. And we provided some sort of a non-linear process for them to go crazy. And the idea here is that we want them to come up with conceptual ideas. We want them to know the value of conceptual ideas. Because most of the people that I came across in the last 20 years, they came up with all these cool ideas, including academic, whether they are academic people, whether they are students or professors, and particularly professors, because they sit on a lot of research that sits on the shelf in their office, and they just don't know the value of that particular research. So we told them, listen, let's expose this for others to build on it. So that's intellectual property, let's build on it. And then based on that strategy that we developed, really, we gave a lot of innovators ideas that came from other people that they can build on it and create something that's so utilitarian, usable, with global impact, and that can benefit humanity around the globe. So externally, really, we truly believe after 6 years of the making of the innovation lab, and that's a hybrid lab. What I mean by that is virtual and physical. Really, it showed that this is a true service that we want to integrate within our business model. So this is how we develop strategy. What business are we in? What's the core business of the company? And anything that complements the core business of the company, we want it on board. Anything that makes millions of dollars or billions of dollars and does not complement the core business of our company, we don't want it. It's that simple.
You know, everything that you shared, one of the biggest things that I take away from that is the passion that you have for what you do. I mean, it just exudes in everything that you shared today. So that's a really, really great share. Thank you so much for sharing that, Maher. So Christian, same question to you.
What was the question again?
I actually posted it in the chat, but I'm more than happy to rephrase it. So to simply offer an example, and again, you don't have to name an organization where you've supported in lifting barriers in getting an open innovation strategy successfully implemented.
Well, I mean, we've worked with over, almost 200 companies and organizations and partners doing exactly that. So, I think that's what we've learned is we work with organizations that have already made the decision to do open innovation. One of the things that we've learned to do is like educate people on and share case studies, best practices, and examples to help them socialize that, and that's often been very successful to help organizations get into crowdsourcing and try it out. The only way to really lift the barriers that I'm aware of is just getting them to want to try a project and then have the project speaks for itself, right? So people need to kind of put their toe in the water to learn that the water is actually pretty fine. And the other thing that's going to lift the barriers is just social proof, right? So seeing organizations, more and more organizations do crowdsourcing is going to help build the confidence for others to do crowdsourcing. It's very similar to, let's say, cloud computing, right? Cloud computing is almost like now the default especially for younger organizations. But it wasn't more than maybe 7 years ago where 8 years ago where cloud computing was outside of the mainstream for most larger organizations. They were still buying servers, buying hosting or having their own data center. And now it would be really weird to set up your own data center and buying servers. I mean, I don't even think can you still buy servers? I mean, do they sell them online? I haven't seen them.
I don't know.
I'm sure they're there somewhere. But cloud computing has just gone quietly, without much fanfare, has gone from a really weird idea. I remember in the early days when we were in the cloud, we didn't have our servers in-house. A lot of clients were concerned about that. They're like, well, if we do business with you, we don't know where your data is. They didn't like the fact that we didn't own our own servers, right? And like it was, we had to go through like security questionnaires and stuff. And Now if I said, oh yeah, no, your data is going to be in our data center at our office, people would be like, well, that's kind of scary. Why can't you just use like Amazon Web Services or something?
Yeah.
So it's amazing how things change so much. Humans don't notice that they change.
Yeah.
It's not like there's this big event that they just go, oh my God, now it's changed. It's slow. I mean,
Progressive.
I'm old enough to remember what it was like to be in an elevator before smartphones.
Yeah.
Right? Or at a bus stop, right? It was a lonely place.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. And, going back to your initial answer about encouraging organizations to just do a pilot project, just to get their toes wet, as you phrased it so eloquently. And, and our stats for last year, Christian, I think over 50% of our projects last year are from repeat clients. So I think once you sip that Kool-Aid and once you see the success, it just speaks for itself. So that's a great answer. So let's shift gears a little bit, guys. So Maher, where do you see the greatest opportunity for growth in this space in 2020?
Kal, to be honest with you, for me to answer this question, 2020 is next door. So I would say in the next few years, but let's start with 2020. But to answer this question, I may have to take just a step back and recognize the trendy drivers of change. And those drivers of change, really, if you think about it, let's start where us human beings, when we first landed on Earth, if you want to put it in that perspective, it started with the hunter-gatherer era, which lasted for millions of years, if don't quote me on the number of years. And then after that, followed by the agricultural era, which lasted for thousands of years, and then followed by the actual industrial revolution. And we had the first, second, third, and now the fourth industrial revolution, which really paved the way for the informational age. And the informational age, what I mean by that is IoT, 3D printing, nanotechnologies, etc. And now I believe that there's a great force that's shaping our future moving forward to this is the next era. And this is the force of knowing that, before I get into that force, keep in mind that there's also artificial intelligence that's playing a key role on the horizontal. So I always put artificial intelligence at the horizontal because it's going to shape all the verticals on top of that. So knowing that AI is going to play a key role, I truly believe that one of the drivers of change, and this is something that's going to stay with us as human beings, is creativity. I truly believe creativity is a big deal, and it's going to start with the age of augmentation, of which or you may call it the augmented age. This is where I see us moving forward towards an augmented age, and creativity plays a key role. So 2020, to be honest, we started already 2019, but 2020, you're going to hear a lot of creativity and augmentation.
Very good. Great answer. Christian, anything to add to that?
Sure, yeah. Well, this time I remember the question, so we humans, we do evolve, apparently. But what I'd add, so I'm a technologist. My whole career has been about helping take technologies and disrupting marketplaces in a positive way with innovation, and what the way that we it's funny, when we think about the world's problems or our own problems, we think in very linear terms. The way I would describe it is if you have a spreadsheet in your brain of the problem, and you're like trying to figure out, okay, if I put the inputs in, to get the right output in the spreadsheet, right? But that's not how innovation happens or change happens. What happens is the things change, and then the formulas are rewritten. And the formulas make the logic totally invalid, right? But we can't think in terms of the formulas because we don't look at the formulas, right? I use the spreadsheet analogy. I don't know if it works, but if it helps. But so like the financial crisis that we had a few years ago, is another good example of everybody was was forecasting with their spreadsheets, they didn't realize their formulas were going to change from under their feet. And, that's why people get, oh, my video is off. Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. So that's, that's kind of how things happen. So, the one thing I know for sure is that most of the time, what we predict is going to happen and when it's going to happen isn't what actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean we shouldn't predict. We should, because what else are we going to do? But we have to remind ourselves that it happens in unpredictable ways. When the internet started, everybody talked about, it was the demise of the middleman, right? The internet was a disintermediation force that means that every car company could sell their cars on their website, and every airline could sell their airline tickets on their website, and that does happen, but it's pretty irrelevant because we don't want to. We're lazy, so it's actually a hyper re-intermediation platform where we don't even want to try to find where to buy stuff. We just go to Amazon.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're like me, if you need to buy anything, you just go to Amazon. Don't even go to Google. You just go straight to Amazon, search there, right? Because it's the lazy person solution. So, nobody would have predicted that when it was predictable. So, that's kind of how things go. The other thing I'll say is that we have a terrible habit as a species to get the timing wrong of things.
Mm-hmm.
The microwave. I forget what it's called. It's a Cavatron. The thing that makes microwaves in a microwave.
I don't know.
It was invented, in the 20s. The first commercial microwave that you could buy was launched in the early 50s, late 40s. And it was a failed product. It was a failed product, right? And it wasn't until the 80s where microwaves, all of a sudden, poof, we went from nobody having a microwave to everybody having a microwave. Almost 40 years after the invention of the commercial purchasable microwave oven. So the thing I would add to what was said is that technology it's almost impossible to guess the timing, right? VR we were all supposed to have VR goggles on or Google Glass on, but we don't. It's something that is unpredictable. But in the meantime, we can work with what we've got, which is we've got a lot of capabilities here. So you need to work with what you've got and be prepared to shift your spreadsheets quickly when it's clear that it's happening.
Got it. Okay, so I'm just going to remind our audience that we're moving into our final question. So if you have any questions that are showing up for you, please don't hesitate to drop them into the Zoom chat. We'll address them shortly. Christian, let's start with you. So I have it that one of the most important elements of being a successful leader is your vision. If you were talking to me in 5 years, and hopefully you will be, and if I was to ask you to explain the impact of crowdsourcing, what would you say? And you can answer however it makes sense for you, either impact on business or on the world, however it occurs for you.
The impact of crowdsourcing. Well, in 5 years, I think we'll be talking about recent history in that case. Again, back to my earlier point, it's impossible to predict the adoption curves, especially for new technologies. But what's happening now is that the demographics, the digital natives, which are the millennials, are in their the oldest millennials are their mid-30s. These are people that basically grew up with technology, grew up with the internet. They grew up with mobile communications and wireless. They're the ones that use Tinder, and things like that. And you can map a lot of the change that we've seen, the adoption that we've seen using demographics, which is a pretty well proven kind of consistent prediction model. So the digital natives are slowly being promoted into the ranks of companies and organizations, and they're the dominant generation now in the workforce. The millennials are, and then there's of course the Gen Zs, or we call them Gen Zs in Canada, but the Gen Zs, which beyond having, I guess, the worst name for a generation, because Gen Z is just a weird name, but they're like the weaponized millennials. They're even more aggressive in technology adoptions. So as these people go in, crowdsourcing is like, to them, is like, it's self-evident, right? It's like, of course you're going to use the internet to collaborate. I mean, why wouldn't you? The whole idea of trying to do things offline or behind a firewall, it's not even wired into their DNA, right? So I think that like a good example is online file storage, which is even a weird thing to even say, like online file storage. This is not just file storage now, but the Dropbox really is the company that really broke through this whole idea of storing your files in the cloud and socialized it for everybody else. But before that, there were probably 100 online file storage companies, startups, that as early as 10 years before Dropbox was even founded, were pounding away at the problem of and the vision of file storage. But Drew Houston, the founder of Dropbox, he was in college when he founded Dropbox about 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. So also known as a millennial. And he thought, the idea that he had to carry his files across the campus on a thumb drive was really stupid. Now, he thought that because he forgot his thumb drive, right? He forgot his thumb drive, and he had his 20-minute walk back to his dorm room to get it. So he created Dropbox, but the timing was the key thing here, right? The millennials were now in college, and they were pre-wired to use a product like Dropbox. And even then, if you talk to Drew, he'd say, man, there were times when it was touch and go for them. So I think crowdsourcing is just on that cusp now of moving into mainstream, and you'll just see it being applied in all sorts of ways, shapes, and sizes, far beyond what we do at HeroX, into many, many, many areas.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you shared, and I would further add just a more simplistic way of viewing it is I have it that it's an accelerant to what's possible for using crowd, and what's possible is something we haven't yet discovered, and I think that's all throughout your share. Like, we don't know what we don't know. Exciting times. Maher, what about yourself? Same question again to you. So if I was talking to you in 5 years and I asked you to explain the impact of crowdsourcing, again, what would you say?
Well, for us to predict what's going to happen 5 years or 10 years down the road, we have to understand, again, the drivers of change that's happening today. So for instance, mega trends such as digitization, the rise of automation, artificial intelligence, and as Christian mentioned, shifting demographics are truly disrupting the way we work and the way companies really relate to their workers or employees, I would say. So to answer, when we first started our business model, we knew back then that we're going to face a lot of hurdles and a lot of challenges, but at the same time, something that's so unique and that kept us really up and running and kept us more passionate about this business model is the fact that the values of people out there were changing. And those values of people changing, knowing that they really don't want to be aligned with the full-time employment. They want to be free. They truly want to be free. So our vision when we started the company is that we wanted to do something cool. I'll be honest with you, we didn't have really a true vision at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just we wanted to do something cool, something different. And that vision, year and a half, couple of years later, started to develop and take its form. And then we realized that this is what's happening with the crowd, with the companies. The values of people are changing, whether they are millennials, Gen Z right now. So to be honest with you, we came across to learn that this is a true business model that's going to have a lot of potential. And this is when we started to understand the psychological behavior of people out there, particularly the full-timers and their kids, and whether their kids, they want to be like them or not. And it's astonishing what we came across to learn that their kids, they really don't want to be like their parents at all. Most of them, I would say 80% to 80 to 85%. I mean, they're inspired by their parents, but they don't want to be like their parents. And they want to be free and adventurous. And with that comes a lot of things. One of them is exploration, innovation, creating new ideas. So our really core purpose as a company is to connect great talent with opportunities so they can remain to be free and adventurous. And we started to see this trend, and based on this trend, we created this cool motto, if you want to put it in that perspective, and connecting the crowd with opportunities so they can remain to be free and adventurous is something that's so unique for us. So in 5 years down the road, and knowing that creativity is going to lead the way, and more people are going to ask to be more free again and adventurous, I truly believe that the crowd will become more loyal to each other. What I mean by that is more loyal than their employer. So if you think about it, Ideanco, we are employing them, but to be honest with you, we're not really asking them directly to be loyal to me. I'm asking them to be loyal to their crowd, because they're going to share. And the reason they're going to be loyal to their crowd, because they're going to share some common cause or skills. So those are the things that we care about the most. And with that, we will keep on attracting and motivating people all the way. And to summarize really what we're doing right now and for the next 5 years, knowing that crowdsourcing is going to pick up more and more and have a lot of momentum, is that we're integrating well-being and happiness into this ecosystem.
Great answer. Thanks for sharing that. That's great. So let's stop our questions now and let's dive into some questions. And again, friendly reminder to the crowd, if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask either of our panelists, please don't hesitate to drop them in. We've got a couple of them already, so let's start with this one. So this one is actually to the both of you. And what are the services Ideanco offers? So that one, Maher, would be to you.
Right. So we started with one service, which is a strategy consultancy, and to be particular, branding strategies. This is the only service that we started with. Today, we provide services similar to the McKinseys of the world, or the PwC, or Ernst & Young, and they are strategy consultancy. So they fall under the advisory arm. So that's a unique service. And then 6 years ago, we started the Innovation Lab. And within that Innovation Lab, to be honest with you, it's a hybrid lab. And what I mean by hybrid is that we run it as virtual and physical at the same time. So it has 4 different sub-services. We have a research arm, the challenges arm, and we're very proud to collaborate with HeroX on the challenges. We also have the Launchpad, which is a virtual incubator to incubate startups. And then we have the crowdfunding platform, where we went into partnership with the 3rd largest crowdfunding platform in the United Kingdom by the name of FundServer. So this is the actual Innovation Lab. That's the 2nd service. And the 3rd one that's coming up soon before the end of the year, we also tested the water with the service in the last 18 months. And this is an actual academy. So we're being very selective on the academy, as we want this academy to cater its services towards our customers, but to also at the same time towards our crowd. So those are the 3 key services: advisory, lab, and academy.
Well said. So the other part of the question was, what makes it different than HeroX? So Christian, I'm going to let you take that one.
Well, so our vision at HeroX is to be the general purpose platform for open innovation and crowdsourcing. So we made the decision a few years ago to rather than try to be a solution provider, and look at how crowdsourcing can apply here and in this industry and in that vertical, that we were better off to be a connecting platform to help match up organizations with the different suppliers, providers, solutions out there that are crowd enabled. And the benefit to that is it allows an organization to put all their crowdsourcing in one place, which is what they want to do. Whether like a coding challenge or a data science challenge or a branding one, and have the freedom to really work with any supplier, any community, anything, but have their branding and their messaging all centralized in one place, and most importantly, benefit from the network effects that are required to make these things work. People think about, well, what's a like social networks are the biggest platforms. Well, what's a social network? Well, they're not two-sided markets. Let's put it that way, right? They're the technical kind of structure for them is an open graph, meaning they're like a bunch of connected mini crowds, if you will. People on Facebook have their Facebook followers, and that's who they interact with. And there's all of these Facebook pages with their followers, and they're all kind of independent to do what they want. So we really see the social network model for crowdsourcing as being what's going to help companies really adopt things mainstream. And in order to really make that happen, we want to partner up with organizations like Ideanco, so that they can bring their expertise into our ecosystem, work with clients both on HeroX and not on HeroX, we're never going to have the time or space to invest in the work that Ideanco does. So just like Amazon needs things to sell, if you will, in order to work at all, we need organizations like Ideanco to help bring the different solutions into crowdsourcing, because it's there's a lot of collaboration is hard to get working right. So there's a lot of need for expertise in crowdsourcing. Organizations are going to constantly want to leverage different types of expertise, different models for crowdsourcing. They don't want to reinvent the wheel, and we want to be the connecting platform for that.
Got it. So just like Amazon is the everything store, HeroX is the everything platform then.
Yeah, that's I would argue that somebody needs to do that in order for crowdsourcing to truly become mainstream.
Yeah.
Because companies are not going to go through the pain of looking for vendors out in the wild to really scale things up.
Yeah. Excellent. Maher, I love this question. Maher, you seem so passionate about the areas you're focused on for breakthroughs. What drives you?
Oh God, to be honest with you, you mentioned it. It's passion, really. You have to, as a person, at one point in life, you just really have to find out what it is that you want. And to be honest, when I was in university, I worked as a bartender in Canada.
Okay, that's a cool job.
And I was making a lot of money. I have to admit, I was making $5,000 a month, paying for my school and other things. And then after that, by the way, I went to architecture school, and I graduated as an architect. And I was so disappointed when I went to the architecture firm. The reason behind it, because nobody set the expectations straight for me from the beginning. That this is what you're gonna get at the architecture firm. I was hoping to go ahead and build the most astonishing building or house in the world. I ended up working, designing an actual garage within an actual house. So that was really disappointing for me. So what happened then is that I realized that I have a lot of creativity deep inside me. and I really want to utilize that. So I have to admit, I was lucky that I knew that this is where I want to focus on. This is my passion, and I translated this passion to what it is today. It's Ideanco. It's the idea innovator company. To be honest, that's the only thing that I can answer, is that you need to find out exactly what you want deep inside you. And once you truly find that, that's it. No one will stop you. You're all set.
Maher, you do inspire, my friend. That's very, very well said. And the other part of your share I love is, if, you know, we do ever, you know, get together, you're going to make us some awesome drinks. So
we'll do that.
So here's a follow-up question. So this is probably related to the first one, Christian. So how does HeroX work? Is it just a platform, or do you support with consulting services?
So, so historically, you know, we started with really helping organizations, you know, with custom design crowdsourcing projects. As I said before, now we've moved more into, you know, working with partners. We work with many partners in many areas. But over the years, we've also developed a lot of expertise in kind of the best practices and the toolkit for crowdsourcing. So, you know, we make those, all our know-how and our best practices, we freely share with our partners as well as our customers. But oftentimes, customers want to bring, you know, they want to bring in help and you know, get some services work done to help them design their crowdsourcing projects and whatnot. So we have advisors here that can help, you know, introduce them to partners, as well as our own, you know, group of consultants who can do work for them. So you know, we can provide both options, basically.
Got it. Excellent. So gentlemen, I think we're pretty much at time now. So listen, Maher, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule today to participate in this webinar and offer your incredible insights, experience, and exuding all that amazing passion. And we do realize also it's late in your day. It's about 7:30 for you now. So, and listen, for those of you attending today's webinar, if you'd like to learn more about how you can leverage the power of the crowd within your innovation strategies, reach out to us directly. We can schedule in a complimentary educational workshop, or if you'd like to connect through with Maher and his team, we can definitely make that happen for you as well. We'll be sending a follow-up email, which will include our contact information. And with that, on behalf of Maher, Christian, and myself, thanks so very much for taking the time to join us today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.